I've got some people in offices at home, some people at work, and it looks like one person's sitting actually in a gym somewhere as well. So a fair reflection on our community club land. A little bit about me quickly. I got a degree in physical education from the University of Otago. Then spent 10 years travelling and landscaping of all things. I then came back and was the operations manager for Nelson Cricket for 2.5 years. They were then moved north to Auckland, where I was with Auckland Rugby as the club capability manager for another 2.5 years. And I now run one of the sports clubs in Auckland called Te Papapa, just in Onehunga there. So in terms of just setting the scene for today, so we're just going to start off with a bit of a background on the current state of community or club sport, where I think it's sort of sitting at the moment. Towards the middle, Ali will just go over an administration pilot that they ran as Tennis NZ and the results of that. And then towards the end, I'll talk to how we can look at achieving the sort of growth that you guys will be after, and with the potential of getting an employee on board. So that's kind of where we sit. I do suggest, or I ask, in fact, that as we go through, please just fire away with questions. Probably in the meantime, if you can all just chuck yourselves on mute just to stop any feedback that we might be getting. But please do jump in if you get a chance, if there's a story to tell or some questions to ask. So, Elliot, probably just ask for you, if you just keep an eye on admitting people from as we go too, it'd be great.
Okay.
Cool. So obviously we're starting off with the main slide around the future of tennis. So I'm looking at a modern approach to growth and success. That'll be evident as we go through in terms of how do we try and govern and run our clubs, and what's the best way for that. And we'll be touching on the potential of, for those clubs that might be relevant, to getting an employee employed at your club to do some of the heavy lifting as well. So I want to start off with the purpose of Tennis New Zealand, which was very new, just been released, building the community through tennis. So a big part of that, which I'm really pleased to see, which is the word community in a national level or organisation purpose, because the community really is the driver of all this stuff. I'm sure you guys will be well aware of that. So what does this mean? Well, for Tennis New Zealand, their vision is so tennis is accessible and thriving. They've got their 4 key focus areas, which is great. For me, the 2 that I really resonate with, that I'm sure you guys will as well, sits with connect and grow, in that order. I think a big part of you guys as clubs and all sports clubs around the country is trying to connect with your current members, as well as your former members, as well as your future members. And in doing so, then growing your club. I assume most clubs on here would want to always be a little bit bigger, have more people playing more tennis more often. So hopefully that's a big part about what you guys are trying to achieve. So what does this actually mean then? So we've talked about the national level priorities. What does it mean for a club? What are your objectives for a normal year of tennis? Well, I've tried to list a couple, and this is what I've got. Looking after your volunteers, getting sponsors, engaging with schools, good effective club planning, regular facility hire, new playing initiatives, hopefully having more than 10 people turn up to your AGM, people using the courts all year round, managing people's registrations, looking after your coaches. It's fairly evident that there's a lot more that goes into the operational side of running a club. Well, it's great to have the vision to grow and connect. I think we all understand that there's a heck of a lot more that's required for the running of any tennis club around the country. So what this means for you guys, I've tried to summarize in one statement, is to become or be a sustainable community hub. I've been really intentional to leave out the word tennis there, and something I want to challenge you guys on throughout this presentation is, I know you are tennis clubs and everything you will do will be through a tennis lens, but any sports club, regardless of your key sport across the country, is we need to start thinking outside of just that sport in terms of how do we drive revenue and participation numbers and people using your space. If you do that and you can increase revenue, then it's going to give you an opportunity to deliver tennis better. And it'll also give you a chance to talk with new members as they come through for the different reasons. So how do we do this? I've got 4 different things that become very critical to being able to achieve this. Number 1 is good governance, which is your running of the club essentially, your committees, your boards, your subcommittees, operational management groups, whatever you like to call them. Good planning, so making sure at the start of each year, the club knows what they're going to do, where they're going, how they're going to achieve that. Good facilities, I have got that with a question mark, although it can be very, very helpful. I don't always deem it critical, but probably in the tennis space, it's probably more critical than others. In my space of rugby, and we've got squash, we just need a grass field and some posts. So it's not as important, but tennis, depending on the surface, I assume, can become fairly critical in the success of the club. The last point is nice and easy. It's a volunteer army that can be given a minimum of 3 hours of quality time to the club each week, make themselves available during both the daytime as well as evenings, to run multiple community programs, oversee facility hire, stakeholder management, sponsorship, recruitment, budget oversight, and coach support for the club. Pretty hard to do, which is what I want to challenge you guys on nowadays is there's no longer do we have time as an individual to be able to run these. And I'd be very surprised to hear someone who's got a club with several people on their committee that are able to deliver all of these things to the level that they would like. So my challenge to you all is that needs to be replaced, if it could work, with a club employee. So why? Well, I'm sure you've looked at a lot of things across the year in terms of what you can deliver and how you can deliver better. Here's some questions and answers that I would get regularly through my time at Auckland Rugby visiting rugby clubs, and I'm even getting in our own club now. Questions like who can run the bar on a Friday night? Answers like I just can't get there as I'm at work, sorry. I would love to help, but I just can't at the moment. Or I'm sure thoughts you all had of wanting to run some cool initiatives for the club, and instead you're writing meeting minutes and taking complaints from parents. Lines like, if we didn't have that person, we'd be stuffed. All bring into some kind of risk in terms of the running and the management of a club, and that you're relying on 1 or 2 key people to deliver. So I'm just going to pass over to Ali as a way of mitigating those risks and how do we manage to solve all of those problems with only leaning on 1 or 2 people. Ali's going to talk to a administration pilot that was run from Tennis New Zealand. Ali.
There we go. I think we should have been on webinars long enough to know we've got to unmute ourselves before we start talking. We have run a pilot, recently worked with 4 Northern tennis clubs to pilot a joint administrator. Now, previous to that, we spent quite a bit of time researching clubs that have an administrator or a manager and understanding how they managed that, how they afforded it, what the roles were, what the responsibilities were, and always in the back of our minds, we knew that there was an opportunity for some of the smaller clubs to be able to run in the same way. It works, and we've seen it works. The clubs that we have researched and worked with that have had administrators have had them for 10, 15, 20 years. So we decided to trial 4 clubs together, sharing 1 administrator. We know that there's job share all over the country, so it seemed like a good idea. We worked with 2 medium-sized, 2 small clubs, and they were supported through the planning process initially, and were reviewed on a quarterly basis to understand what was working and what might need to be adapted. So let's have a look at what we found from that, the pilot, which began in January last year. So it's been going for a year now. They've had their first year with an administrator. So in the reviews, we found a key increase was communication. And as we know, communication is fundamental to any organization, but not often it can be neglected, especially in our industry. 900% increase in social media posting, and the clubs reported newsletters happening, flyers being made more regularly. So really a good key outcome there, just the basics that we know need to happen. The average increase in membership across the 4 clubs was 45%. New casual players are less easy to count, but we had an average of 18 plus casual players per club, extra casual players per club. And of course, funding is a huge, money is what we need. They generated across the 4 clubs in that 9 months. These are 3 reviews. We've put these stats together for. $235,000 was generated in successful funding. Along with these benefits of administration, the clubs were able to open up sharing opportunities in other ways. And this was something we didn't even think about. It just happened. It morphed into a possibility, and the clubs grabbed it and ran with it. Club courts for casual play and social programs. So they shared their club courts. If they wanted to go to a social program at one or casual play at another one, the clubs had decided this was possible. They'd love it to happen. The other thing was use of club courts for inter-club matches. Now, we all realise the strain on court availability to members and coaches during inter-club. Often there's not enough courts. So it made sense that some of those smaller clubs that didn't have inter-club teams were able to allow clubs to use those for their home games. And then one of the other options, which doesn't suit everyone if they've got their own coach, but it did in this particular cluster, it opened up coaching opportunities to some of the other clubs. So that's just a quick snapshot of what we've learned from being part of this pilot, supporting it and reviewing it. But what I'd like to do is, at the end of, tomorrow, when we share some information with you, and some of that information that we're going to share is about a club pilot, the opportunities that your club might have to have a joint club administration pilot. We have another one running in another part of the country, but look out for that information. And if it interests you, we'd love to share a little bit more about how it might work for your club. Thanks, Ben.
Cool. Thanks, Ellie. Let's come back a couple of slides here. Pretty exciting sort of pilot that you guys have run there, Ellie. The idea of 45% more membership is a pretty cool one. I'm sure it's pricked up a lot of ears around here. Right, so we're going to look at now going into the logistics a bit further in terms of a paid employee at your club. And I will just start out by saying I'm really open to questions and thoughts around this space. I took this role on that I'm currently in with Te Papapa Rugby and Sports Club in September last year. When I came into the club, they had no employee. I've now managed to build across the last few months a full-time role with the club. So I guess what I'm saying is I've somewhat lived and breathed what's happened here, and hence why Ellie's called on me to discuss with you guys. It's not without its challenges for sure, and there's a lot of certainly a lot of upfront work that probably needs to go in. But I think we're certainly seeing the benefits of any club having a dedicated resource and time to put back into the club can be a really effective way of growing and becoming more sustainable. So, Chris, I might just get you to mute if that's right, mate. I'm just getting a bit of thanks, mate. So we're going to start off with the two big factors, key factors that we've looked into is good governance and good plans. Okay, so the good planning determines what the employee does throughout the year. The good governance ensures that they do it. So my recommendation here would be as a club to sit down. December's normally quite busy, so it might be January, it might be the end of your financial year, whatever it is. It might be in the winter if it's easier if you're a summer tennis club. But sit down with your committee and make sure, block out half a day and make sure you've got some really concrete plans in place for what you want to deliver and how you will deliver it. That is then, once you've got that North Star or that idea, that sort of future plan, then we can look at working with an employee, building into some job descriptions what you would like to see, and then actioning it from there. A big part of the governance, as you can see, is the clear and accurate role description. So knowing across your committee who is there and what they do. That doesn't not only helps for you guys to be able to, I don't like the word stay in your lane, but be able to address what you need to and do it well. And also helps for a club employee to know who they need to go to when they've got questions around different bits and pieces around your club. The good plans is really important, both in terms of your community engagement, how you're going to drive more sponsorship with this person, but a big part of that is your budgeting as well. So knowing on your funding plan which funders you're going to go to and when can help ensure that you are getting the employee salary as well. And you might have you might go to one funder towards the start of the year, and if you do miss out, then you've got another couple of 3 or 4 opportunities to go to other funders to get that money if you need. So what I've got here is a kind of basic budget or financial plan for what it could look like for you guys. I've tried to target this more of as a tennis club. I know you guys have a relatively high user pays component for how you deliver your sport. So we've pulled out, this will be for a $30,000 annualized role at 16 hours a week at $35 an hour. So sort of par for course probably nowadays. That can obviously be changed depending on what sort of person you get in. User pays component $10,000, going to a funder for $5,000. Having a part of that person's role increasing your sponsorship and pulling $5,000 from that. Sponsorship can be anything from being able to, I know you've got a lot of court space and fences, putting signs up, but it's also, there's other things for what other value have you got as a tennis club, sorry. I know you've got social media followers, so what's the value? How many of them do you reach? You've got websites, I'm sure. Can you use put logos up across your banners at your websites? Whereabouts in your club rooms can you display them? What else do you run in your club rooms that can show how many eyes you can get on a potential sponsorship or sponsor's logo? So really working out where the value is within your club is a really important piece. Then other things, depending on what you have, is bar sales and facility hire, obviously depending on whether you own your facility or not. Community events and community programs as well, 2.5 from each, which we're going to touch on shortly as well. So the key points to this is having an employee, a part of their role will be to create or find their own salary through the support of the committee. So hopefully at the start of the year, you would have worked out on your financial plan or your budget where the money's going to come from, and then it's up to the employee to start actioning it. And that can be through driving more programs during the day. Someone's there to open up to unlock for hall hire. It really does open a new world when you've got a dedicated resource. We've got there one funding app per year. $5,000 for a funding app is a very reasonable, I'd probably say low amount to apply for. And so hopefully by having that reduced amount, you're going to increase the likelihood of you being successful. But like I say, if you're only going to need one successful $5,000 grant, then you can apply across the year or multiple times to different grants to get that. There is, I was looking the other day, over 1,000 community grants that can be applied for within Auckland alone. Okay, there is, if you need more support on that, then you can either go through the Tennis New Zealand through their website, or Sport New Zealand have a big list as well. They're very easy to find. My suggestion is just make sure you're looking at what their authorised purpose is, which can show whether they'll be allowed to deliver to A, tennis clubs, but B, to salaries as well. But it won't take you long to work that out. And the last part, when he talked about that risk earlier, is having the cash reserves for that rainy day. So there's one thing with budget, there's another thing for cash flow. So if you do, maybe you didn't get the funder early on, maybe the sponsorship is still coming in, maybe the community events are during the summer and you've got to pay them from the start in the winter, is having that cash reserves in there for the rainy day or the time you do need to dip in. But hopefully your budget's going to allow some wiggle room that in case you miss a funding app or the odd sponsorship for how you can get that money back. Really important point to note there. Is there any questions about any of that part so far? The money part is really important. We are going to, you may be paying someone which needs to deliver bread and butter onto the table. You know, the money does become really important. So is there anyone that's got any particular questions for that? No? Cool.
Ben,
yep.
I might jump in quickly there just to go over the pilot again. Although the administrator for that cluster of 4 clubs was very key, that the job of administrator was just not applying for funding. She had other jobs too, but definitely funding was a big part of it. And just to your point earlier about how quite often you might get success with it, they had a total of 29 applications to get that 235,000. 16 of them were turned down, but she had begun to get a really good relationship, build a really good relationship with those funders, and became so good at knowing what was needed to be put into those funding applications. So we all know what it's like to have a funding application for the first time. It's just overwhelming, but like anything, it gets easier and easier when it's part of your job and you do it regularly. So
yeah, it's a great point out there. I don't think many of us sign up to be committee members to fill out funding forms. You know, so I will state that you can actually fill out a funding form for your own salary. So although they can do a lot of the heavy lifting, or it still will have to be sent off from one of the committee members, but that's very easy to sort towards the end of that process. But exactly, a great point, Ali, that although they'll be spending some time filling out and finding their salary, whilst they do that, they'll be driving more events, more programs, more engaged sponsors, more bar sales, which is going to be a really good thing for your club. So it's an exciting opportunity.
I'd like to ask a question about sponsors. What sort of advice do you have for clubs looking to increase the range of these sponsors? You know, like what's the selling proposition, for instance, or the value proposition?
Yeah, totally. So we've just gone through that. When I came to Te Papa, they had one sponsor that they just essentially was on an AP each year because he was an old boy. We've now built to 11 sponsors, bringing in about 20,000 for the club. I've targeted that in 2 particular ways. One is engaging with former members or past members and finding out what they do. I did that by going to an old boy who without a word of a lie, gave me 5 pages of A4 paper with the number of employees, and there would have been, former members. There probably was about 130 names, and I called every one of them. And it didn't go call them with a pitch of, hey, could you sponsor to start? I just said, hey, I just want to let you know that Te Papa Pa's coming back. There's a lot going on at the club and would love to have you involved if you were keen. And then we sort of built from there. The other part, like I touched on in terms of value proposition, which is a really good point, is look around your club and see what value you have. So if from my knowledge of tennis clubs, and they're not dissimilar from rugby clubs, like I talked about, you've got eyes on your Facebook. People love to see if you do posts, what is the engagement for them? It's not hard to go into your social media or Facebook and find all this information out. There'll be someone in your club that can do it for you. They'll let you know how many page views you get per post, the range of the ages of the people looking at your things. You've all got a website. What's your viewership of the website? How often are you directing people to that? You've all got, I'm sure, uniforms or merchandise within the club. Can there be naming rights for them? Can there be logos put on, that sort of thing? Your biggest and most obvious one is your fence space, especially if you're looking towards a road, is getting corefoots or whatever it is printed as part of the sponsorship and being put up there. I also do 2 sponsors events a year as a part of the value proposition. One is we'll do a sponsors day out, which I'll work with Auckland Rugby to get us some tickets to an Auckland Rugby match and host us. You guys can start talking to leveraging off maybe Tennis New Zealand as their tickets to tennis tournaments here or whatever it can look like. It's really a matter of building that. What is there within your club to start off with that you can immediately show the value? Now, I'll be honest, half of the sponsors that we've got on the club have gone, you've sold the dream. I love what you're doing. I don't want any of the things you've mentioned. Here's the money. I just want you to go and do some good things. And that's blown me away. I didn't realize there'd be that side of it. But it's been a really interesting part that, yeah, if you can show the value, show the community programs you're going to deliver, show them how many school kids you're going to engage. They love that community story as well. Does that kind of answer your question, Elton?
Yeah, terrific. Thanks very much, Ben.
Cool. There was something in the chat I saw. Yep, you're absolutely right. Someone just chucked in the chat around councils not allowing clubs to put up signs. And you will have to, it's really important that you do keep on the good side of councils. It'll certainly be more relevant for those who own their facilities. But, you know, if it can't be on the sign, where else can it be? Have you got signage on the side of the, do you own the building rather than the tennis nets? What about inside? Can you get flags made up that you can put out in the court area every time you run a tournament or have school kids over? There's pull-up banners that can be made that can have logos put on. Yeah, you just kind of have to think outside the box. Where's the value and what can you offer? Right, we'll keep going through then. So when we talked about the good governance, so this was the side of ensuring that the employee does do what's required. So making sure your own house is really tidy first is a really important part. I've just pulled a couple of things from our one, but as you can see, there's a link at the top of this. Ali will be sharing this with you guys. The committee's roles and meetings from the Tennis New Zealand Club Toolkit. I've had a look through. It is fantastic. There is some really, really good stuff that I reckon you guys should check out if you haven't. Here's just an example of 4 officers that you might have in your board or management group. It will align with the new Incorporated Societies Act. Does say you need 3 officers declared for your committees. They will generally be your chairperson, secretary, and treasurer, which are 3 I've got here, and I've just chucked in an extra one of events coordinator as well. This is a really short description, a bit of a blurb about what each one does, but it should come with more of a one-pager, which does state in a bit more detail what's required for those different roles. And this can be anything from all these other ones too. You might have a patron who advocates essentially for the club. You might have a vice chair or president, vice president that can fill in when the chair or the president's away. Communication and marketing officers. So that can go to a young person in your club to ensure your social media is kept up to date. A school liaison officer, facility management, coach development. There's an array of things that you guys can all have within your club that can ensure those little bits are being done or managed effectively. You got to remember the big part, especially if you were fortunate or successful in getting an employee, the role and responsibility gives direction. That person will give direction and work with the employee to deliver the operational or the actual side. So it takes away that heavy lifting and ensures that the volunteer isn't burdened with all the work. So here's a funding plan. Again, you reference to the the funding and budget template link that's above this. This is literally actually taken from one that I use for our club. And as you can see, I want to run a holiday program in about February or January each year. So we go to NZCT for that. The person responsible is the employer, it's me. The application's closing 20th of Jan. That one will actually be for our April holiday program, because you've got to apply a couple, 3 months in advance. Salary, going to Line Foundation for salary parts. Operational costs for those who own their facilities. There's a huge amount of cost that goes into running insurance rates, water, power, all that stuff. You should be trying to get that covered as well. Facility improvements. So 1 or 2 throughout the year. I look at how can we improve our facility, and hopefully we're trying to get a new roof, for example, for our rugby club. So let's get in front of it at the start of the year. How do we plan for that? Do you need new court nets? Do you need resurfacing? Do you need the building painted? Get that in the funding plan at the start of the year, and find the months where we can put it in, and then make sure it's actioned. You'll see at the end of it, I've got whether it's successful, has the accountability to complete it, and has a thank you letter been sent to the funder. That last one is not compulsory, but if you do go back to them, you want to make sure that you're very thankful and aware of the support that they have given you. As a part of that, we've got a pull-up banner, which we've got all our sponsors printed on. On the bottom of that, I also have, and thanks to our funders, and I put them on there as well. It does get difficult if you get new ones because they're not on there, but you can make that work. Community engagement plans. So this is an example of what this could look like. So this is, we talked about the programs and events. This is looking at 3 for each. I've tried to make this as tennis-centric as possible for what you guys may deliver. You might do a summer holiday program for kids, which is at your club. Delivery time January, 5 to 10-year-olds, and the key people involved. You might do winter squad coaching. You might have after-school coaching, and what would align with that is a user pays component, if relevant, particularly for the likes of winter squad. If you're starting for the more elite kids, they can start paying. You might use your summer holiday program as a free program just to get more people in. Totally up to you guys, but you do have to then align it with your budget for how you're going to raise your money. 3 events I've got in there: a club quiz night, maybe a Christmas catch up or hit out, everyone dress up and have a fun doubles night, and the Love Tennis, which I know you guys all do with your day to attract new members at the start of the tennis season. So again, don't rely on people, rely on plans. A lot of the stuff are in some pretty special, important people's heads of yours in the club. We've got to look at what if they did run away with a lotto win rather than hit by bus. We've got to get that stuff down on paper to ensure the sustainability part of running a club. I'll let you sort that question, Elliot, and probably another time. What else can you offer? I've just sat there and thought, what on earth can you do as a tennis club? Let me just jump back. Well, I look at you guys. You've got a large asphalt or turf or concrete area. When you look at Auckland, and I'll just get you to stop clicking if it's right, what can you use that space for? Oh, you've clicked again. You might be able to answer her at the end, probably. I'll be fine. So walking or running groups. So if you look at Sport New Zealand, the latest research shows the most participated in sport is through walking or running groups, both in terms of the unorganised version and the organised version. What's required for that? Nothing. They just need somewhere to start in the streets to run, but they can end up back at your club. You can open the bar, they can have a drink, you can engage with them. There's more eyes on your logos, on your sponsors. There's more people you might be able to talk to around helping. Can you put bring in basketball hoops, and have some work with Basketball Auckland to get kids involved and get them down to your club? Like I said at the start, it was a sustainable community hub, not a sustainable tennis club. You might have after-school care programs that include homework. There's nothing better than a parent if they can come from school down to the club, spend half an hour doing a homework, half an hour run around, and then picked up by mum or dad after that. birthday parties, modified tennis. So can you, with using your community, with your committees, all once a month, once every 2 months, bring along a potluck dinner and invite former members that might have once been part of your club to come in for a feed. Not targeted at those who necessarily can't afford the feed, but maybe they're at home alone. Maybe they just enjoy a bit of interaction down at the club. That's other ways that you can get people inside your club that you can then engage with. Then you can talk to, you can tell them what's coming up, you can sell them the tennis dream. And in the meantime, they can hopefully spend money over your bar, which can all help. You can bet it's ridiculous. I've got remote control car races. Where else in Auckland do we have that much room of court space? Let's get kids down there and do some remote control cars. That can be part of a tennis group, half an hour cars, half an hour tennis. If you want to get them in front of you, as many of you are learning, you can't just keep going down the same come and play tennis if they're not turning up. Think outside the square. How else do we get them down to your club and your court and get them using your space? So the key takeaways for me is plan well. So ensure everyone within the club committee knows their role and has the tools that they need to succeed, or at least in terms of the tools they need to then drive and manage the employee to deliver the programs and the events that they need. And rely on plans, not people. Start building your plans now and they'll get better and better as time goes by. I highly recommend as a club, I assume you have an annual plan, which is just, it can be a map on the wall that just says what we do in each month. This month we have love tennis, this month we have interclub, this month we do our quiz night. Work out where your quiet months are and what can you do in there. The other big takeaway is to, if you can, is to find an employee. It doesn't have to be full-time, it doesn't have to be daunting. But if you get one as soon as you can, but don't rush it. It's really important that the process is followed properly. It will make a huge difference to your club, both in terms of growing the numbers, as well as taking the pressure off the volunteers. And I know with the volunteers, I've never heard of one that just says, gosh, I can't find enough work to do at this club. Nor have I met a volunteer that had a handover that actually told them what they were going to be getting into. There's always more than meets the eye. And the more we can take off that, the more we can allow that volunteer to deliver what they were sort of hoping or expecting, the more inclined they're going to be to come back. And lastly, think community, not club. What does your community need? What does your community want? What can you help deliver to them? Don't think I'm a tennis club. How do I get them playing tennis? That can come after. But how do you engage with them first, get them excited about coming down? A tennis club can still run fun functions. Do a casino night, do auctions, whatever it takes to engage with your community, and then you can sell them the tennis dream. And it doesn't have to be the tennis dream. As long as they're propping up the bar or they're buying raffle tickets or whatever it is, they're still contributing to your club. They might then become a sponsor. They might then become a committee member, who knows. But be a community hub, not just a tennis club. Any questions? That's kind of the end of what we've, the presentation. But please, by all means, like I say, I've just been living this over the last 6 months of the trials and tribulations about growing this within ours. And it's been successful, and the difference we're finding already has been huge. But thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, hi Sharon.
Employee evokes me a whole lot of things about holiday pay and all of that stuff. Do you mean contractor? Is that the way it normally runs?
Yep, so great point. So you can employ with two ways. So like Sharon said, you can be a contractor or you can be an employee of the club. Yep, absolutely. Contract is probably a really good way of doing it to minimize your risk. It also means if funding dries up, you can more easily let them go. The contractor does mean that you'll probably be paying them a higher amount, so there'll be more money that you will need to find as the risk, they carry the risk of employment. We are running an employee model, so I am an employee of the club. I am not an expert in that area. And I do really recommend that you engage with a solicitor or a lawyer in some way, shape, or form to get advice, or an HR recruitment provider for what this could look like at your club. But it's a really good point, Sharon, that you bring up.
Just to reiterate what Ben was talking about with sponsorship, that's a great point. And clubs, we tend to think that all we can do is put signage on our fences. And you covered what the opportunities are very, very well there. So the one thing that struck with me when I was starting to look at how to get a sponsor was just working out what you've got to sell. You've got more to sell than you have just your fences. So it's sitting down and planning what have you got, what events you're running, etc. But the other good point that Ben made was about look to your members, find out. That was exactly what I did. Who are members and what are they involved in? If they've got a link to tennis, your chances of getting some sort of sponsorship from them are far greater, or some form of recognition and sponsorship. So they really think about that, put some planning into that. There's so many opportunities we really don't take up.
Hi Ben, it's Andrew Blacker here. Thank you very much for all that. A lot of good ideas. You keep referring to the bar. If you'd come and see our clubhouse, you'd know how far from reality that ever is. Not a chance, not a hope. But never mind, it's good thought. I'm interested to know if there's anybody else from Tennis Otago listening in here. No. Ali, you recorded this. Is the recording going to be available to show to people? Because I'd like to show this to other people.
Absolutely, yeah, we recorded, and you can find the recording tomorrow on our toolkit area under webinars. So it'll definitely be available. We want to spread the word as much as we can. So thanks for doing that, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, the bar is a really interesting one. But look, it doesn't have to be the bar. You can substitute the bar for a number of things in terms of generating revenue within your club. I highly recommend I've found successful is sending out a monthly newsletter to your members, both past and present. It's amazing how when you're no longer turning up to your club, how much you then miss out on what is happening and what is going on. As soon as I engaged with that list, the A4 pages that I was given, email list went from 40 odd to 150 something. And again, that's more value proposition that you can give to sponsors if you're putting their logos on your newsletter as well. We just had a question in the chat in terms of getting in contact later, which is totally fine. I'll just skip through this. There is my email and my phone number. I'm more than happy for you guys to take one or both and get in touch. I'm more than happy to support where needed. It can be, if you're in Auckland, I'm happy to swing by. We can do Zoom meetings. I'm happy to just look over briefly what your plans are that you might currently have, whether you think that they could be improved, or just discuss ideas. Yeah, like I say, I know the struggles and the trials and tribulations of club space. It can be difficult. And the more we can stick together and work on these things together, I think the better that we can be.
Is there anyone on this call that does have an administrator or a manager employed? Okay. We'll certainly look for sending you some information about that snapshot of the review and the findings we got from our joint administrator in Tennis Northern area, and more to tell you what would be the next step if you actually needed to go back to your club and chat to your committees about the possibilities of that. I'm going to see if I can try and move. Every time I click my screen, I seem to do something. Oh, yes.
So I can make a comment about employees. So I'm from Blockhouse Bay Tennis Club. Yep. We have 5 indoor courts, 5 outdoor courts. So we need to have that can be the club coach sometimes, or we have a club administrator as well. The coach does some administration, and we have a 20-hour-a-week administrator. But we also need basically their students who come in and manage the desk until sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning when people are finished. And it's surprising how much of the income generated from the indoor courts is taken just by that administration.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a difficult one for you guys, Richard, when you're right, when you're not seem to be taking any steps forward by having an employee. They're essentially just the money you're getting in is then straight away going out. I mean, it sounds like you guys need to look at investing in some kind of swipe card sort of thing that you can take that away. It'll be a lot of upfront investment, I know.
Yes.
But it is a difficult thing, especially going into those early hours, to find someone who can then go and unlock and open up. It's a difficult thing. Like I said, there's so many different and unique challenges from club to club. But certainly looking at the budget sheet, bring up your P&L. Where is your money going and where's it coming in is a great start to addressing those challenges.
Yes. Point taken. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, well, we're on our final slide here, and I'd just like to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us. But before we leave, I'd like to just make you aware of the options we have through Tennis New Zealand to be able to support your club. Firstly, these webinars, we have a series throughout the year, and you'll be getting more information on what's coming in the series. There's important heavy stuff like New Incorporated Societies Act, and there's a lot lighter stuff coming up that are going to be more about marketing your club. The club, actually, what's the next one on that, Ben? I'm too scared to click anything on my, see if I can get rid of this. Oh, that's it, Club Toolkit. So we did run over the Club Toolkit a little bit, and I keep getting a flash that my internet connection is not very good, so please excuse that. We have a whole range of templates for marketing plans, for stepping through your funding plans, for stepping through if you would like to get a future plan in place. So we've tried to cover everything. In this particular webinar, we're linking particularly back to the governance area to give you an understanding of that with planning in place as well. So please do go and have a little look. I will be sending you that link in an email tomorrow. The joint administration program, again, we'd love to share more of that if you're interested. We do run club culture, which is all about finding who your people are, and quite often we don't go and consult our people. We tend to make a decision for them, and we end up doing the same old. So that's a little bit about the club culture. Open court program is modified tennis, and then of course a lot of you are on our Club Hub Facebook group, where we've got 700 plus clubs and members that are able to ask questions and talk there. So again, that will be sent to you. I'm going to pack a little email tomorrow morning, and that webinar recording will be up on our toolkit. So you'll get all the information you need, and apologies for the overload, but we're very passionate about giving you what you need, and you can pick and choose what you want. So I think I'd like to say a huge thank you to Ben. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that, and his experience and knowledge on the ground has been very helpful. So thanks, Ben, and thanks to everyone else tonight too for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, Ellie. Oh, I'm happy to hang around for 5-10 minutes if people want questions asked. More than happy to stick around for a bit.
While you're here, just the one Love Tennis question. You will be finding that date very shortly. It's coming shortly.
Lovely. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Ian. Yeah, g'day.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can see me. I'm not sure my video's up, but thanks very much for that. I was able to join you rather late, but I caught most of it. I'm down in Christchurch.
Yeah.
We've engaged in a sort of professional applications for funding sort of system, so that we try to
more of a
do
third party contract.
Yeah, and it's been the trouble as a club is we just have no guarantee as to what we're going to get and what we're not going to get. I appreciate you saying we'll try again and try again. And for some of the things like coaching, we've done very well. You know, there's no doubt about it. You know that most of the funds we apply to are supportive of that. The big issue that we have currently is a major undertaking to repair our tennis courts, which could be anything up to 250,000, I guess. And most of these funding applications come with an issue of you can't have spent the money before you get the funding, and you've got to spend it within a certain amount of time. And you might not get all your funding for a project. And we're faced with a dilemma of, well, can we undertake and take on a contract with a builder when we don't know whether we will have enough funding? I'm interested to know what your experience is as to how clubs have gone about these major fundraising exercises where you have to sort of stack them all up before you can undertake the major repair.
It's a really good point, Ian. In terms of relating to it, we're trying to find $120,000 for our roof currently for our rugby club. So I'm going through the exact thing you've talked about. There's some issues that get in front of that. Is when you receive, you'll need 2 quotes as you do for your funding. The other dangerous part is when you get those quotes, by the time you have worked out where all the funding has come from, those quotes might not even be relevant anymore either. If the building costs have increased, and suddenly that difference is going to have to come out of your back pocket in terms of a club, because they're only going to cover whatever was in your application. So there's a couple of things with that, Ian, that we're finding. One sits in a real grey area, and one sits really above board. The above board part is really looking at is where you can get your money from in terms of the funding. So things like local council grants, they can often, if you're going to more like community trust like NZCT, Trillion, Lion Foundation, they often have to be spent within the 3 months. The council ones understand the club and community space a bit more and are more willing to work with you. So you can get some, say, as a part of your funding plan, you might say, right, I'm going to get $40,000 from the council as a part of their facilities fund, which we're going through currently. I'm going to get $40,000 from a large community provider, and we're going to get $40,000 from our own pocket, a third, say, which can be you guys raising money through everything that you can imagine. And from that, the money that you raise within the club can certainly count ready for when it's to be spent. The money from the council has got a longer spending time, so it gives you more time to go for other funding apps. And then you need to target a month where you apply to 5 different funders. And then most importantly is you get in front of those funders in some way, shape or form as well. And this is where the skill or the game of funding comes into play a wee bit. You talk with your local pub and work out what's in your area and work out who they're aligned to, and go and have your committee meetings there. The owners of the pub talk with the committees that run those trusts and those foundations. And if they see you guys supporting them, then you might just find that the support will come back to you a lot easier. But it does mean you have to get up out of your club and go and support those pubs where those pokie machines can be found.
Okay.
And that's a real lost part of that cycle, if you will, in terms of clubs are like, well, let's just go to funders and who cares and see what comes back. But if you start supporting those local clubs and they go, hey, and they which they shouldn't, but unfortunately it's what happens, as they go on the side, hey, look, we're getting really great support and we hear some really cool things happening down at this club. We'd love for you as a provider to be able to support them if you can.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
what you say, I can totally understand that. I think tennis is a different group. It's not your average rugby club. It's I played a lot of sports. I can understand where you're coming from with a rugby club going down to the local pub. In some ways, we're almost competitors with the local pub, and with so many clubs, trying to run a bar on the side and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it's very challenging. It's very challenging.
It is, Ian. And sorry, what I don't actually mean, but I mean from the club we've got no senior teams, so we're only juniors currently. So when I say support the club, I mean take your committee meetings down there.
Yes.
There's if you are with some family and you're going out for a drink, just call in. Shake their hand, learn their name, let them know, hey, we're actually just down the road. Talk to them about sponsorship first and foremost. That might not work, but at least there's a chance for you to sit in front of them and tell them what you're about and what you're doing down at the club. Sell them that community dream.
All right. Now, look, thanks very much for your time. It's very hard putting ideas into practice, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and having an employee will help you guys do that big time, mate. But you're in a really tricky position. I'm finding it really hard, to be honest, as well for us. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks very much for your time.
Things. Yeah. Bite size. That's how you eat the elephant. Just one bite at a time.
Yeah.
It's an enormous undertaking where we don't know how big I mean, we could be talking $500,000 or we could be talking $250,000. It's just such a massive outlay of money that it's hard to know where to start, to be honest. And also the disruption to the club as we undertake the project is also severe as well.
Just promise me, Ian, when you've found the solution, that you'll then incorporate that into your long-term budgets for your club, for how you will get there next time, because the courts will need redoing. Sometime soon.
We are so cost sub sensitive. People will leave the club if the subs go up too much. It's a very challenging environment to be working in. But thank you very much all for your time. Cheers now. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Yes, thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Cool. No other questions? Concerns? Deborah, can I just ask, whereabouts are you from?
Beautiful area.
Yeah, I'm in Rotorua.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just seem familiar. We were living in Rotorua for 6 months before we came back up here. So whether I bumped into you there, I don't know, but you just seem familiar.
My job when I'm not volunteering is a physio.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Yep. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So tennis is a big part of my life, and it's been a long time doing it. And I have tried to get our committee to, and I'm involved with Bay of Plenty as tennis as well, and I've been trying to get them to get someone employed for a really long time, because as Ali will know, we've got major volunteer fatigue, and to be able to have someone do it. So this webinar, I just can't wait to get my committee to look at it. We've got some amazing volunteers, and when that army of volunteers, we've easily got people who put 3 hours a week into it, multiple ones, but I was just listening to the last speaker. We have sort of that financial pressure too, of if we put our membership fees up too much, then we will definitely lose members. So it's a fine line, and we've got some amazing people that do some applications, but everyone gets a bit stretched, and at times you can put a lot into it and other times you can't. So to have some consistency of someone who's there all the time, who can take care of all those inquiries and help help with holiday programs, organising the school stuff. We just need someone who can do all of that. So I can't wait for them to have a look at this, and hopefully it'll inspire.
Yeah, all the best. You're certainly not alone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's help you do that, Deborah.
Okay, question 3.
Yeah.
You said there were over 1,000 sources of money.
Funders. Yep.
Funders, the word, in Auckland. Where do I find that list?
Yeah, no worries. Go on to Sport New Zealand and type in external, in Google, external funders Sport New Zealand, and it will give you a drop-down box, and you can say, I am this, I want that, who can give it to me? And it will spit you out many, many, many.
And you should get that through our website too, Richard. If you go
Okay.
into the funding area, there's a lot of links
Right.
that we pulled out those sort of sites to, yeah.
Tell me again, where will we find this presentation tomorrow? Where on
Oh,
Zealand
so
Tennis?
it's on the, if you go to the Tennis New Zealand front page,
Yes,
there's a tab at the top that says clubs,
yes.
and click on that, the drop down window. I've stuck us at the very top, Club Toolkit.
Yeah.
And you link in that, and there's a whole lot of options there.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. And if you
Right.
don't find what you want there or on Sport New Zealand, come back to me. We'll make sure we put it up there so that other people don't
Good.
have the same issues you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Okay.
See you guys.
Goodbye then.
Thanks, Ellie.
Yeah.